Writing is a blend between inquiry, discovery, and communication. These topics are thoroughly discussed throughout this WRA course. According to the first year writing at MSU page, inquiry is a recursive process of posing, following, and addressing questions. Discovery is learning through the process of inquiry. Communication is the purposeful engagement of the self and others through the products of inquiry and discovery. The first year writing program relates students' prior writing knowledge to new ideas in rhetoric, literacy, and culture. You can write about your own experiences, interests, research, or anything you want. A large part of writing is working with others. Other people can help edit and revise your work to make it appeal to larger audiences and understandable to all cultures. You are never truly finished with writing. There is always something you can add and always new skills to obtain.
My writing experience before WRA was overall less complex and vague compared to what I experience now. Examples of this include learning how to have an intro that contains a thesis statement, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. This was the basic essay outline that I was taught in high school. Other specifics include being pushed away from using I in an essay. By taking WRA, I now know that this is false and that I actually can use that pronoun in my papers. Looking away from high school writing and taking a closer look into how the nation as a whole writes, I personally think that the country does a poor job with efficiently reaching out to all readers. What I mean by this is not that everyone comprehends and understands passages or papers the same way. With this being said, it is important to keep in mind who will be reading your work and how you could help them understand. One of the main things WRA has helped me understand is this exact concept. Before this class, I was unaware that not everyone who was reading my paper was thoroughly understanding it. Overall, it is important to keep in mind that people come from all over the world and are taught different ways of writing. What was your experience in high school compared to your experience in your WRA class?
In my WRA class this year, we are participating in service learning, where we write papers for a nonprofit organization, and I did not have that experience in high school.
Have you seen any personal improvements in your writing because of WRA? If so, what are they?
I do think I've been growing as a writer since WRA began, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't gotten any feedback from my professor that would really tell.
Writing class engages students to study practices of writing and rhetoric through critical analyzing their cultural experience, prior academic literacies, and individual prior knowledge. The projects that we do in this class is the first one where we talk about a major event that changed our lives. Our second project is a cultural artifact that changed over time, and our third project that we do talks about how we pick a major and explain it to incoming freshmen and how we view on that major.
This course's mission is to encourage students to begin to understand themselves as contributing members of MSU's community of scholars committed to asking important questions and seeking rich responses to those questions, developing skills, knowledge, and attitudes that improve the quality of life for self and others through scholarly, social, and professional activities, making successful transitions to writing, reading, and researching in higher education, and becoming effective leaders in the community through their diverse literary activities.
The writing process can be defined as a series of overlapping steps that include inquiry questions, an outline, drafts, revision, and research that ultimately lead to a final cohesive paper. Inquiry questions are the questions you develop that guide your ideas and make the paper flow. It helps you decide what aspects of the topic are relevant and should be addressed in the paper. The outline is where you use the inquiry questions as stepping stones to build a skeleton for your writing. It organizes the ideas for the paper without going too far into detail.
Creating multiple drafts is an important part of the writing process. While revising, one should pay attention to syntax, the organization of the essay, and if the paper addressed the intended audience. Good writers take time to ensure that their ideas are described clearly, as audience members may come from differing cultural backgrounds. Revision also involves reflecting upon whether or not certain paragraphs fit into the overall theme of an essay. Though it is difficult to change, or in some cases remove entire paragraphs, these revisions are often necessary. Doing this will ensure that every aspect of the paper ties back to the thesis statement. Now that we have discussed drafting, let's move on to the research component of essay writing. Research may involve going to a library to look for books and articles that relate to the topic of interest, or it may involve looking for information online. When conducting research online, one should be sure to use reputable sources. For instance, sources that are available on Google Scholar. All of these sources should be cited, as a failure to do so would be plagiarizing. After completing each new draft, it may be beneficial to engage in a peer review. Peer review involves having others read and comment on an essay draft in hopes of making it better. Using Google Docs is a great resource when doing this, as it allows writers to share their work with a larger audience. After the paper has been revised several times, writers should begin the editing process, a process that tends to focus mostly on grammar.
Global peer review is a very important part of the writing process, and it is stressed heavily in the writing class. Peer review is not only done once, but multiple times, and it provides a way for the author to get different perspectives and ideas for improving the structure and content of the paper. By getting feedback from other students who know the prompt well, the writing can get good and useful tips for making their paper read better. It also helps to make sure that the reading is addressing a universal audience. By this, I mean that the people around the world could understand what the writing is talking about and be able to follow along throughout.
I have grown from WRA by becoming a more sophisticated and scholarly writer. I no longer edit to fix grammar, but I now know how to revise effectively to make my paper more clear and precise. I have learned the importance of citing sources and how to do this effectively. I can now include in-text citations properly and understand why it is so important to give credit to the author and not claim their thoughts as my own. Since I'm going into packaging, I will utilize writing when I create labels on products and complete write-ups on various projects. How have you grown in this class?
I learned to write in a way that everyone, especially those from different cultures, can understand what I am trying to say.
How will you apply the writing skills you have learned to your nursing career?
When I become a nurse, I can apply writing to making charts for patients. Also, healthcare literacy is important to be able to communicate to people about the healthcare system.